everyone, welcome back. In this video, we'll be talking about Azure Container Instance. So we already created one container instance and we have tried to access this web page using quick start images. So let's see how this is done. So let me go to home and let me go to the resource group. So for this specific lab, I have created a resource group called container instance RG. So you can just click create here if you want to create a new resource group. So you can just add the name here and the region. So you can just review and create it, it will be done. So once it is done, you can click that resource group and here you can add the resources by clicking create. So let's search for the container instance. So there you go, we have got the container instance. So basically the container instance is a cloud-based service provided by Microsoft Azure that allows you to run Docker containers without having and to manage underlying infrastructure. In simple terms, ACI lets you run containers in the cloud without having to worry about the servers, virtual machines or other infrastructure required to support them. So that is the definition of instance. Even you can see here, Azure Container Instance offers the fastest and simplest way to run containers in Azure without having provisioning any virtual machine, without having to adopt a higher level of service. So let's go ahead and create that. So here you can see we have subscription, which is the default one. In this case, I only have one, so I have selected the subscription. And the resource group that we have just created, which is container instance RG. And coming to the name, here I'll be using MRT container 1. So it's done. And coming to the region, I'll be using East US since I'm dealing with East US. And availability zone, none. And SKU standard, you can select this other as well if you want. But in this case, we'll be selecting the standard, which is the default one. And coming to the image sources, you can click quick start images or you can select the Azure Container Registry. So if you remember in the previous video, we were talking about Azure Container Registry, where we have seen few commands through which we can access those pages. So if you have that registry, you can simply add that registry. Since I have deleted that, I don't have any registry as of now, so I'm not using that. So I'll be using quick start images. In this case, I'll be using the default one, which is the first one. So basically the quick start images are pre-configured Docker images that you can use to quickly deploy common workloads such as web applications or databases without having to create custom Docker images from scratch. So that is the definition of these quick start images. So you can also change the size if you want, but in this case, I'll just leave it as default. And let's go to the next stage, which is the networking. And here I'll be keeping it as public, and coming to the DNS name, you can just add it as just to be unique, add as DNS MRT DNS. And coming to the scope, you can select the relevant scope through which based on your needs. So in this case, I'll just keep it as a tenant, and it will be running in the port 80. So let's go to the next one, which is the advanced. And here you can see there is a restart policy. So the restart policy refers to the behavior that is used when a container instance fails or is stopped. So a restart policy determines whether the container instance is automatically restarted when it exits or stops, and how many times it should be restarted. So that is what it defines. So if you click here, we have three different options: on failure, always, and never. Coming to the first one, which is on failure, the policy specifies that the container instance should be restarted only if it fails or stops due to an error or exception. So this is the default one, which will be already selected. So if we talk about always, so this policy specifies that the container instance should be restarted whenever it fails or stops, regardless of the reason. On the other hand, if we talk about never, this policy specifies that the container instance should never be restarted automatically, even if it fails or stops. So we'll just leave it as default. And coming to here, we have environmental variables. So mark as secure, and here we have two options, yes and no. So basically, environmental variables are ways to pass configurations information to the container instance at runtime. Environmental variables are key value pairs that can be set when you create a container instance and can be used by application running inside the container to access configuration settings or other resources. So environmental variables are commonly used to store sensitive information such as passwords, API keys, and connection strings. By setting these values as environmental variables, you can keep them separate from the code or a Docker image, which helps them to improve the security and maintainability. So let's say I just wanted to use my user ID. So I'll just add UID and I'll just keep it as Ravi. So it doesn't need to be secure. So I'm just keeping it as no. Whereas if you keep it yes, let's say I need some password. So I'm adding here password, and you can see there is a difference. So you're not able to see. So based on your requirements, you have to add these environmental variables, and in the end review and create it. So in this case, I'm just not adding any variables. So since this is for example purpose, I'm not adding anything. So let me go back and let me show you the one which has already been created. So this was the one which has been created. So if you click here, so you can see this is the fully qualified domain name, and you can just access it here. So you can see the graphs as well. So you can just so you can see we were able to access this welcome to Azure container instance. And here you can also go to the container logs, which is under setting. You can click the containers, and here you can select the logs. So basically these viewing the logs for the container instance is helping when troubleshooting issues with the container or the application it runs on. So that is how it works. So in the end, like once you completed this lab, make sure that you delete it. So let me also show you how this is deleted. So you can just delete the resource group, and you can just copy this and paste here. And you can also delete this way, or you can use Cloud Shell to delete it. So I think this is the easier way, so I'm just deleting in this way. So coming to this video, I hope you guys understood the concept of today's video. If you've liked the video, please click the like button below, and if you've not subscribed to my channel, please do subscribe to my channel, and please share the video. Thanks everyone.